Hey there, folks. It's Patrick. I'm just a dude trying to save the world. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about strength. My father wasn't a rich man. His father, a Missouri coal miner, died in the mines when my father was just 8 years old, and as such, never had occasion to bestow upon my dear old dad $1 million grub stake. To sort of help him get started. My father was an imposing, square-jawed, handsome, semi-pro boxer who moved out west after his first marriage and became a cowboy who lived in North Hollywood. His neighbors there included a man and his 20-year-old wife, who my father, being 40 years old, promptly stole away. And that's how I came to be. He boarded his horse on a small ranch in Sylmar, I think, and after my parents' inevitable divorce, my father threw me up on her one weekend when I was 3 years old. The quarter horse promptly threw me off, and the first of more than a few bones was broken, this time being my right arm. The large animal veterinarian happened to be on site, so my father had him look me over, and they set my arm by pinning it across my chest and wrapping me in adhesive tape. This would be my cast for weeks. A half hour later, he had me out learning to load, aim, and fire a Winchester .30-30 rifle with the butt pressed firmly against my chest while he said quietly, "Just squeeze the trigger, boy. It's going to kick a bit." My father was a brash, often raging man whom one never told or even hinted might be wrong. Not ever. My father wore bravado like a new shirt every single day. He could fall from the top of the hay truck to the ground 10 feet below, land on his back, get up, and finish the unloading. And once when I was about 12, I remember we got pulled over on the I-5 South by the CHP for speeding. My father unleashed a bellowing tirade of injustice, depicting the officer as judge, jury, and executioner that was so fierce. The patrolman turned without speaking, returned to his car, and just drove off. My father carried a few $1,000s, all Benjamins, in his wallet all the time, simply to impress, and he always drove Cadillacs. My father thought he was the smartest man on the planet, and he thought minorities and gay folks were little more than animals. He taught me that women were good for only 4 things. I'm not going to tell you what they were. But he also taught me that I was average and that I was stupid, most often while screaming at the top of his lungs. And that wasn't the worst of it. My father was strong. My father was terrifying. I've fought for most of my life, dangling by my neck between becoming just like him and knowing something was terribly wrong, desperately searching for release and redemption, nearly losing or even taking my own life more than once in a very manic, depressive, Jekyll Hyde existence. While I've come a long, long way, there's still much work to be done and damage to be undone. Now, it seems to me lately that there's quite a large segment of this society pledging their allegiance to this same sort of man as a leader of other strong men. The sort of man who tells it like it is. The sort of man whose wife falls behind him and mostly keeps her mouth shut. The sort of man who ridicules just about everybody, from the handicapped to the immigrants to minorities to all women and men who dare to disagree with him. The sort of man who completely lacks self-awareness. My father was not, and these other men I've come to learn are not, the towering pillars of strength and superiority they so loudly proclaim themselves to be. These men are little more than frightened children, overcompensating for their vast inadequacies and imperfections. These men are overtly and quite obviously, at their very core, simply weak. Loud intimidation, abject denigration, and threats of violence are the only protection they have, the very armor that they wear like a new shirt every single day that holds at bay, barely, their true self-image. You want to know what love is? You want to know what strength is? It's thoughtfulness. It's empathy, vulnerability, intuition, patience, and compassion. To know what true strength is, look to a person who hasn't fallen in behind one of these men, complying and bending to their will simply because they're told it's their duty to do so. Look to the one who has, after perhaps years of emotional and physical abuse, summoned the courage and the will to leave the abuse laid down daily by one of these men and who begins a new life on their own. Look to the remarkable single parent who, though mistakes have been made and a very difficult path has been chosen, takes responsibility and is raising 3 beautiful children on her own and is doing it well. Look to the woman who chose her own way and made her own life in a patriarchal society that still undervalues her. Look to the woman who, after working many, many years on a very comfortable, yet less than fulfilling, less than supportive marriage, makes the hard decision, battles fear into submission, starts her own business, strikes out on her own, and succeeds brilliantly. Look to the woman who, with all of this, takes under her wing a broken and solitary man, he himself witness to and the victim of the abuses of patriarchal strength, lifting him along with her own weight, giving him the tools and the understanding and the compassion and the love to utterly transform himself and his life, and to, in turn, lift her and others. You want to know what true strength is? Son, you look to a woman. So like, subscribe, and share if you're so inclined, because I'm just a dude. One dude trying to save the world. We'll see you next time.